There's a quote that says, man does nothing till man has to do everything. And that's me, right? I was slanging beers and now I'm slanging organic juices. Totally opposite spectrum and lifestyle. But the number one thing I would focus on is just making one direct change. The first change I ever made was I carried a water bottle with me every day. I went from someone who was ingesting sodas and this and that. I made it the goal to drink 64 ounces of water a day. Then after that, I started making even smaller decisions. The first time I ever ate a well-balanced meal, I got a grilled chicken and took it off the bun from Chick-fil-A and put sauteed broccoli on the side with a sweet potato. Even though the chicken's probably been, all different things have been altered, that didn't matter to me. It was still, I was, 60% of that meal, I knew where it came from and I prepared it myself. And that's how it started. And then I found juicing. So that's what I always encourage people to do, is just pick one thing and stick with it and watch the next changes that will come with that one strong foundation choice. That's it.
And I think it's really important to shift away from that all or nothing mindset and to not feel like you're restricting. I think small, sustainable habits really add up over time. And like you said, Jillian, hydration was one of my first goals that I worked on too. Once I felt like I implemented that and it became routine for me, I was like, okay, I can move on to the next thing. So pick one thing that they want to focus on, whether that's cooking more meals at home or keeping a journal and tracking what you're eating. It doesn't have to be super rigid, but when you start to track all of that, you can connect the dots to see what foods made you feel really good. And like you said, Jillian, the momentum really starts to pick up. And when you feel good, it makes it easier to continue on that path and to keep moving forward.
Welcome back to Prevention Pioneers, the show where we rethink workplace mental health by putting prevention first. Today, we're exploring a question many people overlook. Is there a direct connection between what we eat and how we feel mentally? Joining us are Jillian Maher, founder of Properly Pressed, and Lindsay Keosayian, integrative nutrition health coach and wellness educator and influencer. Jillian, Lindsay, welcome to the show.
Hi, Mike. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're
Hey,
welcome.
Mike, thanks so much for having us. So excited to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you. And I've had the opportunity to get to know both of you. Obviously, Jillian a lot longer, but over the last few weeks, Lindsay as well. And I couldn't think of two better guests for this show. For years, I've been in mental health, many, many years. 15 on the residential treatment side, and now 4 on the preventative mental health side. And the correlation between what we put in our bodies and how we feel mentally is a constant in our space. And I don't think people really understand the true value of talking about it and what it really means. What you put in your body 24 hours before can really affect that next day. And it's amazing. We're going to dive into a lot of that stuff. But before we do that, I want to open up and understand who the humans are behind the experts that we're here talking to. So Jillian, I'll start with you. What originally pulled you towards food and wellness as a mission, not just as a business?
So the foundation actually for the purpose was never to be a profitable industry. I learned how to juice and how to eat better because I thought it was a survival skill that was going to be necessary for me to have optimal health. I'm someone who's been to rehab treatment. Got sober in 2016. I struggled tremendously from about the age of 12 to 21. And even then, when I started going to treatment, it wasn't as advanced as it was now. A lot of things were being figured out. And I don't know how many of those therapies today are still supported by that, because it was such an unknown factor. To have a very young person with such a natural disposition for self-sabotage was ultimately what was brought upon me from a young age. So I was drawn to the health and wellness facet, not because I suffered so bad mentally. I went through a sobriety program and received a lot of support, and that eased that wound. It kind of made it bleed a little bit less. And then I went back into regular society and took on a high stress job. did not focus on what I ate, but still tried to focus on the mental aspect, following more like Buddhism and just practicing putting in what you're getting out and all these things. And then ultimately, my health took the worst turn ever, as opposed to when I was actively using drugs. I actually never really suffered a cold. I didn't have anything that was wrong with me that wasn't self-induced. And now at 28, I was newly sober, wanted a better life, knew what that looked like for me, and I had no idea how to eat. And it caught up with me very quickly,
Mm,
working 80 hours a week in a restaurant industry. So with that being said, I was left with like a choice, right? I go back to the doctors again and I say, show me how to live, because I already went from 14 to 21 and said, show me how to live. And now I'm in this rut again where my body's failing me, even though my mind is the strongest it's ever been. So I was kind of faced with a door where I could take action or I could allow this to hinder my life. Like I'd already made it through 10 years of battling out for just normal peace.
mhm.
So now it was at a point where like I wasn't willing to give that up over making 6 or 8 months of bad dietary decisions. I had gained some weight. I just was not sleeping well. I was living in a house that took moisture on the back deck, which I was not aware of at the time. So there's all these things that indicate an environment where you'll either thrive or it'll be detrimental to you. And that's what I endured, was that long term uh, unfit conditions caused a terrible environment. And ultimately, I went to the doctor. I had some swelling. I go to another hospital. I have some swelling. They're back and forth. And then I go to another hospital and they're like, we think that your kidney is in failure or you have leukemia because your white blood cell count is so high. We're not really sure at this point. So then I was really afraid. Had to take action. I had a friend that was very interested in holistic living, and she had told me just for the time being to come to her home and we would talk about it. So I went to her home and I was introduced to diet, exercise, lifestyle, but also neuroscientists and cell regeneration therapists, where they look at the environment the cell is enduring and they assist with the clearing of that. And that was really what blew me open. I went to a neuroscientist. I was juicing every day. I lost 88 pounds. I just totally gained any power I'd given away back. And I was not willing to lose it again. So I thought 20 years restaurant experience, can understand the hustle, all of these things, right? I'm like, maybe I'll just make juice professionally, because all the feedback I got from women that were really living this lifestyle and really into this thought, I'm not doing it to make
Yeah,
money. I'm doing it for what it feeds me.
sure.
I don't want the stress of making the money. And I thought, well, I've already managed that aspect of it. I understand the numbers. Now, if I could make the ingredients and make them suit our bodies better and put a ton of micronutrients in one beverage, I'd be serving myself in the past tense. And that's why I started the business.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank
And
you.
it's amazing to see how that's transpired. And you do a wonderful job and make it such a beautiful product, as we all know.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Lindsay, was there a personal moment or experience that changed how you viewed nutrition and mental health?
Absolutely. I did not really struggle with a ton of health issues my whole life until after I got COVID. A few months after I got COVID, I started to develop very odd symptoms and I had no idea what was going on. I started to go from doctor to doctor to try to get answers, and all of my tests kept coming back normal. So it was very confusing because I knew something was off. I knew my body didn't feel right. I knew that I was struggling with something, but I couldn't figure out what it was. So after going to over 30 different conventional doctors and not getting the answers, I decided to take it upon myself to do my own research and learn all I could about nutrition and holistic healing. And I started to implement some of what I was learning, or I should say a lot of what I was learning. And slowly over time, I started to feel better. My symptoms started to improve. And I couldn't believe it, honestly. I was shocked that what I was eating or what I was eliminating from my diet could actually help me feel better. So after all of that, it took me a couple of years to fully heal, and I ended up quitting my previous job because that was also an industry that wasn't safe in terms of the environment that I was in. I was around a lot of toxic chemicals with the work that I was doing. So I figured, you know what, I'm going to start over. I am really passionate about this, and I know that there's a lot of other people out there who need help and who are struggling and they feel like they're not heard. And I want to be able to help them use food and holistic therapies to feel better and to live the vibrant life they deserve to live.
It's great. I'll tell you two powerful stories. Two individuals that, learned it from self experiences, put their head down, right? And went and figured it out, put in their time, the research, and really committed to that change, right? And in mental health, we often talk about you can't be there for other people, whether it's family or friends or kids or aunts, uncles, whatever it may be, as a strong foundation for mental health, unless you love yourself and you take care of yourself. You two are a huge testament of doing that and really putting that investment into yourselves so that now you could touch so many different lives with the experiences that you all have gained and are now willing to share with the greater population. So thank you both for that. Both of you work closely with people every day, obviously through various different forms. What's the common misconception? And you guys could tag team this one however you want, about healthy eating that frustrates you the most.
I believe what's most frustrating question that I am asked is what is the healthiest juice that we offer? And I guess the number one thing I would want to express to the customer, client, neighbor, friend is that America is 70% genetically modified or fortified or enriched, which means it's not in its original state, which there is a lot of science that supports that your body doesn't digest that as well as it would as a single origin cell. And we offer that 100% of the time, that 30% window. We focus on selling that because we understand how hard it is every day to go out. You're getting access at the supermarkets to so many different products all the time. You're not really sure what to buy. You see a new rice cracker that says it has no seed oils in it, but then you look and now it has an enriched wheat. You find out that the enriched wheat was processed with an oil anyway that you were originally thought you were taking out. So I guess my biggest, most frustrating question would be what's not healthy? What's original? What is single
Hmm.
origin? That's what I would focus on. Single origin as opposed to low calorie.
Yeah.
I would also say that I think a lot of people struggle with figuring out what ingredients they should be consuming or not consuming. And I think that it's really important for people to learn how to read labels on the food that they're buying in the grocery store because truthfully, growing up, I didn't look at one single label. I just didn't have an interest to know, what I was putting into my body. And now I think it's critical because I think, there's so many additives and refined sugar and all of these things that are being added to our food that are causing so much inflammation. And if we just have some more knowledge and information about, what um, is helping us heal or what is, causing disease, we can make better choices when we're shopping at the grocery store.
And that both your responses play into like something that resonates in my head, right? As a uh I would highly uneducated eater, if that's what you will. Um, somebody who doesn't spend every day studying it like you both do, but I want to make a lifestyle change. I know I want to eat healthier. I know how I feel certain days when I eat better than when I don't, right? Um, I could tell you the way I'm going to feel after I eat a couple slices of pizza versus the way I feel when I eat, you know, a really healthy home cooked meal with balanced portions of, veggies and home cooked, chicken or steak. And so that whole notion of getting healthy could become very overwhelming. It can be very overwhelming to the person that doesn't understand it. And I think that for me is because I feel like I have to go all in and like go to 0 to 100 in like 50 seconds or 5 seconds. Whereas the reality is you could take stepping stones, right? You could ease into this. You could start introducing some healthy habits, some healthy ways of living, you know, daily, weekly, bi-weekly, and then start adjusting and tweaking it, right? We don't have to jump off and fully into the pool. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. It's so funny. There's a quote that says, man does nothing till man has to do everything. And that's me, right? I was slanging beers and now I'm slanging organic juices, totally opposite spectrum and lifestyle. But the number one thing I would focus on is just making one direct change. The first change I ever made was I carried a water bottle with me every day. I went from someone who was ingesting sodas and this and that. I made it the goal to drink 64 ounces of water a day. That was it. I followed that for a year. Then after that, I started making even smaller decisions, just certain products. I started with one preservative at a time. I mean, the first time I ever ate a well-balanced meal, I got a grilled chicken and took it off the bun from Chick-fil-A and put sauteed broccoli on the side with a sweet potato. Even though the chicken's probably been all different things have been altered, that didn't matter to me. It was still, I was, 60% of that meal, I knew where it came from and I
Hmm.
prepared it myself.
Hmm.
And that's how it started. And then I found juicing. It was very, it was easy to put a bunch of great things into my body very quickly because I still was someone who had an active lifestyle, especially because I was feeling better.
Sure.
So that's what I always encourage people to do is just pick one thing and stick with it and watch the momentum and and just the next changes that will come with that one strong foundation choice. That's it.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I totally agree with you, Jillian. And like you said, Mike, it can be very overwhelming. And I think it's really important to shift away from that all or nothing mindset and to not feel like you're restricting. I think small, sustainable habits really add up over time. And like you said, Jillian, hydration was one of my first goals that I worked on too, because I was not drinking nearly as much water as I should have been. And that was one of the first steps. And then once I felt like I implemented that and it became routine for me, I was like, okay, I can move on to the next thing. So I think it's really important for people to start small, pick one thing that they want to focus on, whether that's cooking more meals at home or keeping a journal and tracking
Mm.
what you're eating. It doesn't have to be super rigid, but when you start to track all of that, you can connect the dots to see what foods made you feel really good and then what foods made you feel not so good. And like you said, Jillian, the momentum really starts to pick up. And when you feel good, it makes it easier to continue on that path and to keep moving forward.
So true. I wonder, isn't there a certain time that it takes to stay in a routine where your mind changes the thought process on eating a certain way, right? Or I know with working out, they say if you work out for 4 straight weeks, yeah, the fifth week is when you really hit the grind and it becomes natural.
It takes 30 days to develop a habit, 90 days to ensure you'll keep it.
Yeah, that's amazing. So don't. I think a key of what we were all just talking about is like don't bite off too much. Where the first 30 days you're going to fail, and then the next 90 days there's zero chance of keeping that habit, right? So let's create a nice easy plan into that and figuring out ways where we can, you know, crawl before we walk, walk before we run.
Definitely. And it's funny you mentioned that because when I was going through my own healing process, one of the books that I read encouraged me to keep a journal and to track for 100 days. And at that time, because I was so sick and I was so desperate to feel better, I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to stick with it. And I tracked my progress for 100 days and tracked my habits. And it was just amazing to see the results like slowly build up over time. And I know 100 days sounds like a long time, but it actually went by really fast. And by the end of it, you don't want to stop. You're like, how far can I take
Yeah,
this? What else can I do? I feel amazing. I just want to keep going with it.
it's got to be
So,
those first couple weeks of getting out of the rut, right?
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
So one of the things you both mentioned in your responses, and I hear about it, I think we all hear about it all the time, is inflammation, right? And I think that's probably one of the key things that eating unhealthy creates in our body. Can we talk a little bit about how it is often described as the body's silent enemy, right? How do highly processed foods increase inflammation? And how do anti inflammatory foods support calmer, clearer thinking?
Well, I would say that highly processed foods usually contain additives and refined seed oils and other ingredients that our bodies weren't made to process. So when we consume these over time, it starts to stress our gut and stress our entire system, which then ends up affecting our mental health as well. Whereas anti-inflammatory foods, berries, dark leafy greens, extra virgin olive oil, avocados, those all help to calm our body internally. And when our nervous system is calm, our thinking is calm, and our mental clarity is just so much better overall.
I need to think about that every time I want to bite into that Big Mac sandwich. It's been a while since I've eaten fast food, by the way. But
That's a good thing, right?
yeah, no, it is. It is.
When you label it as inflammatory foods, someone who's just coming into healthy eating or someone who that just may not be the way that they things have been described to them, I always thought like, what is inflammation? That's disagreement with the body.
Mm.
That is what inflammation. It is a disagreement with yourself. You're at odds with yourself, is what that means. So once I understood that information and processed it as that food, because of its origin, my gut biome can't recognize it, right? So now I'm running into issues that are unknown because, again, it's the gut biome that honors myself honors my mind. There's neurotransmitters that come from my stomach. And if I'm putting it in there, a processed agent that the body doesn't recognize, instead of sending the message, it's now going to figure out what it doesn't recognize, right? So inflammation to me is my body at odds. And that's why I try to eat when it's into a diet where it puts my body in alignment with self. And it's okay. You're going to have times where you don't feel you did the best thing. That's all normal. And I think it builds character. And I think it's really healthy to have balance with it.
Mhm.
But when I portray myself to inflammation as a disagreement with self, I then now just naturally begin to eat more foods that feel better.
Yeah. This is the whole gut brain relationship.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
So the gut does have a relationship with the brain,
Oh, it
and the
sends out
gut
neurotransmissions.
is a huge part of that, right?
Oh,
Let's
absolutely.
talk a little bit about that. How does a gut influence serotonin production? How does it influence? Talked about inflammation a little bit, but overall mental resilience.
Well, we know that the gut and the brain are connected. And when our gut is off, usually our mood is off as well. And when our gut is healthy, we tend to feel happier and to feel better. And when our gut is healthy, also, it helps to support some of those feel good chemicals like serotonin, which just puts us in a better mood. So I know personally for myself, if I'm feeling bloated or constipated, I am not the most pleasant to be
Mhm.
around. I'm irritable, I'm moody, I just feel heavy. Um, and when everything's running smoothly, I feel light, I feel energized, and I just feel like I can get the tasks done throughout the day that I want to accomplish. And I'm just a happier person overall.
I feel as though when that occurs, those feelings of the food not really sitting well with me, I feel like I kind of lose a portion of myself because I believe that the gut is sending the signals to the mind. And that's why I'm now irritable, discontent, and anxious because I can't perceive any danger that's coming. I couldn't get myself out of trouble. It doesn't put me in the most optimal position. And now my cells are concerned. And it makes sense because self preservation, we would have never made it to this point in time if we didn't have that natural inclination to take care of ourselves. So I think that is a lot of it. And that's why the mental health will be the next piece of it because how could you be happy if you didn't have what you needed to thrive, right? If I plant a flower and then I take the dirt away from the flower, it's not going to grow,
Mm.
right? It's very similar to your stomach and your brain. If I remove the ways that it transfers information and then I'm not getting information, then I'm getting bad information, you have to look at that connection and why that may be.
All that being said, and I'm going to kind of revert back to the overwhelming side of things, right? And sustainability, I think, is probably the key word. Being consistent, not perfect, right? Whether it is, you're coaching somebody or you're speaking with somebody about how to, do a proper juice cleanse, whatever it may be. But somebody's looking for that change. Let's say they do have a jacked up gut, right? I mean, they've been eating poorly for years, they're drinking too much, all processed foods. What would be the best way to start them, right? Like, I'd love to hear a couple little tidbits of gold from you two about like, here are the simple steps you need to follow in the next, you know, 6 to 8 weeks, right? Does it start with a cleanse of some sort? Does it start with like, do you need to ultimately break down what's in that body first before you start introducing good things into that body? Or is it no, just start introducing good things into that body and then you could start doing some of the cleanse work or whatever it may be. Again, trying to stay with the simplistic approach of sustainable, consistent, but not overwhelming.
If I had a bad digestion and I was in the same position I was 5 years ago and I wanted to change my life again, I would go on the Mediterranean diet for 14 days and drink water. Then after those 14 days, I would find somebody pressing organic cold pressed juice and I would go to them and I would get juices made every day for 5 days and I would totally reset my entire gut biome and change my life in, a matter of 37 days.
Wow.
That's would be the
I
start.
love that.
Yeah, very simple,
I have a
cut and dry.
follow-up question to that, but I want to hear if you have anything.
I would say that I would probably start by removing the triggers that I know would potentially be causing issues. Triggers like ultra processed foods, refined sugars, refined seed oils, excessive amounts of caffeine, alcohol, removing all of those first. And then honestly, experimenting with your body to see what your body responds well to, because it's not a one size fits all
Mhm.
approach for everyone. Everyone's bodies are different and unique, and what one person can tolerate well that, may be considered an anti-inflammatory food that could trigger, something in somebody else. So I think it's really important to get a journal and start tracking what you're eating and track your symptoms and see how you're feeling, and then put the
Hmm.
pieces together to realize what's inflaming you or what's helping you heal. Maybe you need an elimination diet and need to eliminate certain foods for an extended period of time and then reintroduce them and see if you have symptoms. So I think a lot of it in the beginning is just understanding your body and tracking it and making adjustments along the way to see what works best for you.
It's funny you mentioned something about writing down a journal. You've also often mentioned this to me too.
Yeah.
In a previous episode, we were talking about attitude and the positiveness attitude has on mental health. And Coach Jay Wright was our guest, and I was hosting, and he mentioned a gratitude journal, right? Writing down things that you're grateful for, right? And being able to reflect back on them. So again, just whether it's talking about the gut and the mind and their relationship, or positivity, positive attitude and the mind, and they all work together. But one of the key consistent things I hear after episode is write things down. Write things down that you could reflect on every day, whether it's how food is, making you feel, or how different interactions and feelings, are making you feel, which is key. So thank you for saying that. I think it's a commitment,
It
right?
Yeah.
is.
One that both of you have done a beautiful job of and continue to live by, and shout from the mountaintops about how good it can make you feel. But I want to turn to something that I know, Julian, you're passionate about, and I got to imagine you are too, Lindsay. But if we get a little bit more technical, right, and we talk about the roles that micronutrients play, like magnesium, B vitamins, omega 3s, iron, zinc, in fatigue, in depression, and in anxiety. Can we talk a little bit about that technicality?
Well, to put it very simply, I would say those are all extremely important because they help to support energy, they help support brain health, mood, immune function. Magnesium helps with calmness and sleep. So they are imperative. And I would say another one that I think is really, really important that we need, especially now in the wintertime, is vitamin D. So I would definitely add that one in as well.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand if you are feeling those symptoms of anxious, depressed, lethargic, possibly getting a blood test done to see if you're low on
Mm.
D3, to see if you're low on B12. Because, for example, like B12 is only found in the natural origin is an animal fat. So if you're a vegan or vegetarian, it's going to be very tough for you to gain B12 traction. You're always going to have a supplementary source. Also, in terms of like your body cannot synthesize vitamin C, which means you cannot create it. So you always have to have a C source. C heals the cells, the lipids, the layers. So you're going to want to always be taking vitamin C. The body can only absorb 1,000 milligrams per serving. So you want to space it out, especially if you're being preventative or you're dealing with something that is deep rooted. Multiple studies support ingesting vitamin C 3 times per day help the cells heal and heal faster.
Mm.
So that's really important to understand that. So if I'm depressed, I'm looking at those. How can I
You
make
never
serotonin?
told me that one, girl. Come on.
I'm sorry, Mike. It gets busy. But like, so
There's
if
so
I'm
many vitamins.
no, yeah, but there's some key ones to look at if you're depressed, like
Yeah.
vitamin D. You're not getting enough sunlight. Where can I find it in food?
Mhm.
Like again, we like try to look for single origin. Vitamin C is a huge one too. Trace minerals can usually be found in Celtic sea salts, really wild, really nice trace minerals. They're always great for brain function, how your body sends signals. So there's definitely some information to know. For example, like spinach has some of the best vitamin K and vitamin A that you can find. So again, I think it's important just to understand eating a lot more just fresh food. Fresh food is going to have what you're looking for, a lot of these nutrients that you're missing. And then, if you're feeling lethargic, depressed, sad, then I would go a step further and then I would go and pay for that blood work, right? Or
Mhm.
have my insurance pay for it or whatever it may be. But the first thing I'm going to do is look at the diet and see, is the food living and what does it have to offer? Did I get any vitamin C in today?
Yeah. Wow. It's like a wealth of knowledge here. I feel like, I could sit here and talk all day about this, which is great. What about cost? Think about, I mean, living healthy is not cheap, right? When we talk about, first thing I hear is vitamins. You got these, 10, 15 different vitamins you could be taking, and then, you know, eating healthy by introducing all these fruits and vegetables and, non-processed foods. The costs start adding up. We know in today's environment, food's not getting any cheaper, right? What are ways that we talk about feeling overwhelmed by just all the data out there in terms of how somebody would go about a healthy diet? What about not feeling overwhelmed about approaching it in a cost effective environment?
So I'm someone that when I was making these changes, I had little to no income. I sold a car to make some things happen. So for me, the bottom line is there is ways where you can still get the basis of the nutrients in. For example, juicing can be known to be very expensive, or you can join a CSA, which is a co-op, a farm locally to you. You have one right here, Urban Roots, right here
Hmm.
in Newtown Square, where you can pay for a monthly box of in-season fruits and vegetables that end up being like $1 a serving when you really break down the cost. So there is ways to shop more efficiently, but it's to understand what you're looking for. There's also super retailers now that specialize in organic produce but cheaper, like Lidl from they're European, Aldi the same. They have offerings, and that's again eating seasonal. Like a pound of butternut squash is 40 cents a pound. But can you prepare butternut squash? The question is that. So that's really what it's about. Like, are you willing to further your skill set to ultimately eat a more nutrient dense diet?
Hmm.
And that's how you can become extremely cost effective. And also utilizing all the products you already purchased. Time is energy, energy is valuable, right? So if I now have discovered that I don't care for that cream I was using, but it was a $400 cream, I'm going to still utilize that through and have my next choice in mind when I'm ready.
Right.
I think we all are programmed to consume, to pace, and to run fast. And I think that's why journaling is so important, because you get so many thoughts per day. You may even forget some of the experiences you
Yeah.
had. So I think that's a huge aspect of it, is to just take a deep breath, say, I'm going to make changes and I'm going to start. And that's how that kind of occurs, just letting things kind of run their course and being a little more intentional with where you shop. I mean, I still shop at 3 supermarkets because I'm not willing to give away my time, my energy,
Hmm.
my frequency basically to eat well. I'm not
Yeah.
willing to do it, but I will shop one Sunday afternoon and be good for 2 weeks, buy 2 weeks of health battery.
Right.
And that's what it comes down to. What are you putting your time and your energy into?
Sure. And something you both said, both of the ways you started changing your life was very simple. It was just adding water,
Yeah,
right?
100%.
For a certain period of time. Yeah, it costs something, but not much, right? Start feeling better and then introduce the next thing, right? It doesn't have to be a race where all of a sudden you're signing up for $600 worth of vitamins and nutritional supplements a month. There's ways to tweak and introduce it at a low cost environment. But again, no price for the price of feeling good and how much more effective you can be in life by feeling good. But everybody has to balance that cost effectiveness with eating well.
Absolutely. And this topic about the cost comes up a lot with the people that I speak with. And I will say that being healthy and making those healthy choices and establishing a healthy lifestyle, from my experience, are a lot more affordable than being sick. Like when you're so sick and you're in and out of the hospital and you're getting
Mm,
all these tests and
Yeah,
procedures and,
amen.
seeing doctors that don't cover your insurance, it adds up really fast. So you want to take these healthy measures so that you prevent that from even happening. And also, like we're saying, keep it simple. A lot of the things that we can do to live better lives are free. Walking is free, water is free, getting outside and getting sunlight is free. Having a gratitude journal or just keeping track of things you're grateful for, that's free. So there's so many things that cost $0. Picking up the phone and having a phone call with somebody, a really, deep conversation with someone that you love and care about. All of those things are free. So I think, those are really important if you're wanting to start, but you're overwhelmed about how much it might cost.
it's a really valid point about the cost benefits. I talked about the cost benefits of feeling healthy and being more productive by having a mentally clear state, which is one way, right? Because that just increases productivity, which should increase, you know, your performance at your job, which should in turn increase your economic return. But the cost benefits of just decreasing costs to your life by staying out of the hospital, staying away from doctors, right?
Yeah.
And spending that money on good foods and a healthy way of living, and maybe not spending as much money on junk. And I mean, I would hate to say, I would hate to calculate how much money most households waste in food,
Yeah,
right? In buying
absolutely.
foods. And then, so if you're more efficient in buying those foods and utilizing those foods and maybe weekly prepping and creating a more sustainable approach to living a healthy life weekly, these all add in and it all makes it a lot more manageable.
Absolutely.
We've talked about what we put in our body. We talk about being smart with it, spending time understanding, spending time introducing it, being cost effective with it. But what about just slowing down, right? Honoring hunger a little bit, understanding what different fullness cues that are out there. How does this regulate the nervous system rather than just the pure food that you're putting in to your body?
Well, actually, when you slow down and you're intentional, it triggers your parasympathetic nervous system, which is the opposite of fight or flight. So, what that's going to do is it's going to fully focus the energy on breaking that food down and sending the nutrients where it needs to go, as opposed to when it's in fight or flight, it's basically half fighting your body and half trying to break the food down, conserves energy through the parasympathetic nervous system.
Wow. All right.
And
I'm
going along with that,
dropping knowledge on me, Jillian.
you go, Jillian.
Yeah.
Um, Going along with that, I think it takes your body out of that stress mode. And I think we've become so accustomed to eating on the go. We're rushing around. Our lives are so busy that we're not taking the time to actually, take a breath and be mindful when we're eating. But when we do that, it allows us to pause and really check in with ourselves and ask ourselves, am I truly physically hungry right now? Is that what I need? Or am I craving something else? Am I craving social interaction? Do I need to hydrate myself? Do I need rest? So I think when we do practice those mindful habits, it really just allows us to take a step back and figure out what our body really needs in that moment.
This has been unbelievable talking about so many different topics with two highly qualified individuals, but more importantly, passionate individuals who really care about what they put in their body and how it makes them feel, how their mental health has changed from that life decision, and your willingness to share it with other people. I mean, it's just truly selfless, and helping so many people. So thank you. I mean, today we covered so many great topics, right? The relationship between the gut and the mind, understanding that there's ways around healthy eating that don't create anxiety and overwhelming feelings, right? There's ways to introduce little aspects of it, from both a healthy living perspective and a cost perspective, and just the amount of little tidbits for those that go back and listen to this podcast over because it's one I will, can be so helpful. And understanding the mental clarity that one can experience by eating healthy and putting that into your body. I'd love for you both to give a quick plug for, your businesses, if you don't mind, telling us where we can find you and how people can get more exposure to Jillian and Lindsay. Please take Jillian, why don't you go first?
We have a location in Media on State Street. It's in between Orange and Lemon, and we didn't plan that. Our social media handles are at Properly Pressed. We're on Facebook and Instagram, and we offer delivery 3 times a week.
Thanks, Jillian.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining today.
Thank you.
Lindsay?
As you said, Mike, I am an integrative nutrition health coach. I meet with my clients virtually, and I help my clients focus on small, sustainable lifestyle habits like we talked about to help them feel better and reduce inflammation and live their best lives. I also share healthy recipes on my social media, so I can be found on Instagram. My Instagram is my name at lindsay.keosayian.
Okay. Keosayian. I was saying it wrong. You didn't even tell. I was saying Keosayian. Keosayian. But if you say it fast.
People say that too. I
Okay.
hear so many
right.
variations.
Well,
I don't
I
even
apologize.
correct anyone because I'm so used to them all.
Lindsay, thank you for joining as well.
Thank you,
I thank
Mike.
both you lovely women for being here today to share your stories, to share your knowledge about the connection between mental health and the gut.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
That's today's episode of Prevention Pioneers. If this conversation resonated, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with somebody who's ready to support their mental health from the inside out. Learn more about Spirance and our prevention first approach at spirancewellness.com. I'm your host, Mike Holloway, and until next time, be well.